Hello everyone, it is Aussies Elect back once again, only a few days after the last video, but a lot of things happen very quickly in the world of politics. Let's talk about what has happened in the last few days. We have a very interesting analysis from a man named David Crow who suggests basically the key seats for the election, and some of them might be obvious and some of them might surprise you. So we'll go through them all. So Reid, that's an obvious one. Gilmore, yeah, there has been some polling showing that Labor will keep Gilmore, but it is a tight margin, so fair enough. And Parramatta in New South Wales. Parramatta is one of those seats where I actually was told by a friend in private that the Labor Party were looking to be in trouble. And it is one to watch, and I'll explain why it is one to watch later on. Corangamite, small margin. McEwen, which has a margin of about 5%, and Chisholm in Victoria. Chisholm is a kind of an obvious one. Swan, Pearson, Hasluck in WA, which was all things we kind of knew. Longman, Leichhardt in Brisbane. In Queensland, I'm surprised that he included Leichhardt in Brisbane because I honestly don't think those seats are in play. And the Tasmanian trio of Bass, Braddon, and Lyons. And I didn't think Lyons was in play, but this guy might know more than I do. Um, and another article was talking about how the Liberals are pursuing Labor-held Lilly in Brisbane, Lingiari in Northern Territory, Corangamite again in Western Victoria. So yeah, we got a bunch of seats that we didn't perhaps think, were going to be that important, but that this always happens in election campaign. Seats pop up, and you're not really sure. So let's go straight to the betting because the betting has reacted to, I believe, this very article because I'm just showing by the kind of odds that have changed in the last couple of days. Corangamite has narrowed a little bit. Deakin actually, this is Liberals have gained ground in Deakin. It was almost equal about 2 weeks ago, and now it is more tight. Dunkley is it's I think the Labour margin is on 2.5%. Flinders, this used to be equal, and now it's strongly Liberal. Nobody this independent isn't really getting any attention now. Goldstein still tight. Higgins, still Liberal, pretty far in front. Kooyong, yeah, I mean, I'm actually surprised that this hasn't tightened further because this battle is getting kind of heated up. But I guess the betting sites have predicted that that is going to sort of blow over a little bit in the next couple of weeks. Latrobe once was equal, $1.70. I think I talked about that last video. But let's go to McEwen. Now McEwen is still down here with odds 1 to 6. So this seat hasn't really blown out based on that article. It's the only one that hasn't. And what's interesting about McEwen is I got some inside information tonight that there was a poll, an internal poll in McEwen, which had Labor and the coalition on 50-50. And remember, this is a seat with a margin, if we come here, 5%, 5.3%. So this is not a seat that you would have expected very much, and I guess that's why the betting sites is not going after it. But it is very interesting to see some pretty narrow odds, and the reason that people are thinking that this might be happening in Victoria, where there might actually be a bit of a swing towards the coalition in a couple of seats. I think of two reasons. The first reason is Daniel Andrews and his coronavirus restrictions, just general kind of anger at the state premier, state Labor premier who's been in for a while. And then obviously, that really long lockdowns in Victoria. So that is apparently kind of shoring up the coalition vote in some of these seats. I really don't know what to think about Victoria. Like it really could go one way or the other. The poll bludger. It has been suggesting that, and by the way, there was a poll where Labor were meant to retain Dunkley, and that poll that I got an inside information of said that the coalition were ahead in Dunkley. But yeah, this one says that this poll was from about a month ago, and this said that Labor was leading 60-40. So I don't know what to think about Dunkley, but I mean the betting sites think it's sort of becoming more tight anyway. So yeah, I'm just gonna go on to so Victoria. Yeah, so the swing is only looking like 2%, plus 2%. I'm so mixed on Victoria because it almost feels like it's a state where Labor could possibly get 3 seats in the Senate, but at the same time it could be their worst enemy, but it could also be the coalition's worst enemy because of Kooyong. Honestly, I think Victoria. Well, I mean, New South Wales, probably it's the same sort of story where it could go either way. So I want to talk about the seat of Parramatta. So if we go back here, so Parramatta has narrowed a bit as well. It used to be 1 to 6, and now if we go down, is it on the front page? No, yes, it's here. It is narrowed to $3.70 for the Liberal Party. So it is looking like it's one that they're targeting, and and according to that website, it's a key seat is in play. Um, all of these independent seats, the independents are really seem to be um, gaining ground, but we won't really be talking about them too much today. So what I want to talk about is actually, before we do that, I just want to take a quick look at sort of the polling that's happened this week, the general kind of outlook for the election. We got a news poll on 53-47 Labor and Ipsos 55-45, and then we have a Morgan poll, which was 54.5 to 45.5. So basically, we had an Ipsos poll which was pretty damn good for Labor. Hasn't changed in a couple of weeks. Um, We've got a news poll which is the same, but I'd say it's a little bit of a middling result, especially as it had Morrison increase his lead for preferred prime minister. And then we had a Morgan poll that isn't very good for Labor, and especially when it comes to some of the state breakdowns where like the coalition leads 54.5, 45.5 in Queensland, which is, I mean, in my opinion, I mean that's probably the result that's probably going to end up happening. um, and also them leading 54.5 to 45.5 in Western Australia, which is a complete um, reversal, complete contradiction to the polling in the Ipsos poll. Yeah, take of that what you will. What the betting sites have said is that Labor have come back a bit. Um, they are again the sort of the clear favourites to win the election. I think that's mostly it's been a bit to do with the polls, but I think it's mostly to do with the kind of stuff that's happened on the media, and it just seems like it's been a decent week for the Labor Party. Now, onto that other thing. We're going to take a look at sort of some history here, and this is the same-sex marriage survey from 2017. Um, I wasn't really a big fan of this, but at least it gave us this map. So we could see very well the sort of same-sex marriage approval based around the country. So there were only a handful of seats around the country that actually said no, um, mostly in sort of regional Queensland, Western Sydney, and outer suburban Melbourne. So something that's come up recently is Katherine Deves talking about trans women playing in women's sport and saying a whole lot of other like uh, homophobic and transphobic and all that kind of stuff, and anti-surrogacy and all this kind of stuff. So, very sort of like social conservative, like anti-woke kind of lingo. So I'm just wondering if there might be a clue on the kind of swings we might get in the election based on the same-sex marriage results from 2017. I know this is a bit of a long bow, um, but actually, last federal election, the swings, basically people who were more likely to vote no were more likely to swing to the coalition last election, and people voting yes are more likely to swing to Labor last election. So it's generally like Scott Morrison's sort of vibe. What people like, the kind of people that tend to like him tend to be socially conservative. So we'll look at a couple of these key seats that so McEwen, they mostly voted yes, so we won't be seeing anything. This and Dunkley both voted yes pretty heavily, and yeah, I don't think that will really be contributing them to voting for the coalition. And like a lot of these seats, like Bruce and Caldwell, I believe, are all safe Labor seats. But if you go into New South Wales, there are a few interesting picks, including Parramatta, and Parramatta voted no, sorry, 61%. and so did Greenway actually. So which is another seat that we're looking at. So these are the kind of seats which Scott Morrison is trying to virtue signal to about his anti sort of trans women like remarks, transphobic remarks. He's trying to get these kind of voters, these kind of people, who social conservative people who would have voted no on the same-sex marriage survey. What else do we get in here? We got Bennelong, which is a seat that they're worried about. Um, Scott Morrison is a little bit worried about the Chinese vote coming back to haunt him, basically with his sort of anti-China rhetoric. Also, the seat of Banks, something similar, but I don't see it happening. But we might see a swing there. Some of these are all sort of safe Labour seats. But yeah, these two seats here, Parramatta and Greenway, are the ones that those I think are like a lot of these maybe I mean like even seats like Patterson, which is one that he is targeting, and I think it's Hunter. They're all relatively actually pretty progressive when at least comes to same-sex marriage. Now, I'm not suggesting that sort of people who vote no to same-sex marriage are like equal to people who are transphobic, but it's just I don't know. I think it's just a way that we can get sort of a little look into perhaps what kind of swings we're going to get this election. Now, interestingly enough, I won't, as I said, I won't talk about the independents too much, but the seat of Kooyong is a very strong voting a yes. So Josh Frydenberg really should be trying to distance himself from those comments, and making me wonder if Scott Morrison is purposely sacrificing his treasurer to get rid of him so that he doesn't have a chance of him taking the prime minister ship from him behind his back. I don't know. I mean, that's just the theory. But as always, the seats most in play, well, most likely to fall to the Labour Party are Boothby, um, Swan, Pearce, Reid, Robertson, um, one seat in Tasmania who are moderately progressive. I mean, no, Bass is pretty progressive. Like these, well, 54, 58. Yeah, I don't know. So maybe that he's trying to court some voters in the seat of Braddon. I mean, it's a good chunk of people. That's 46% of people who voted no. So yeah, or the other sort of like thing is he's trying to court preferences from United Australia or Pauline Hanson, which the people who vote for them tend to be pretty conservative. So pretty anti-vax, pretty anti-trans. But yeah, like yeah, this video pretty much I just wanted to talk about sort of like these sort of seats which people are possibly not expecting and are going to go to the coalition. I had someone in the comments. Reason I mentioned Hunter and Patterson is because I had someone in the comments talking about those seats. Hunter, I think, is if there's one seat that I would give to the coalition, I think Hunter would be it. Just simply because of the fact that this carbon tax scare campaign I think is going to work at least to some degree, and also that Joel Fitzgibbon is retiring. But I'm not sure about the other ones. I think I'd put my money on Parramatta. I think that's one the Labor Party really should be worrying about at this point in time. And Greenway is always also one to look at it, as well as McEwen. Just before we finish off this video, I just want to note that a poll has come out actually recently where Labor Party are leading in Parramatta 55 to 45. These polls also show that Allegra Spender in the seat of Wentworth is leading 53 to 47. But what is also notable is it's kind of on topic of what we've been talking about today. Generally, the people of Parramatta were pretty supportive of transgender people, and it shows that even in sort of a more conservative seat like Parramatta, that perhaps this sort of Katherine Deves comments maybe isn't going down as well as people like Chris Ullman are saying that it is. But we probably won't know until election day if that is the case. But anyway, for now, I think that's it for today. There'll be another video pretty soon. Thank you for watching.